Little Vinny Vincent for you guys. How are you? Vinny, what happened to the Metal Merry Christmas? I don't know. I got no reports on that. Anyways, we are doing, I feel like I'm in a Hot Wheel car. I'm like driving down these curves of a parking garage. And I had just sat in my car for about 10 minutes doing an entire episode of Mark in the Minivan, at which point I realized I forgot to hit record. So I got to get home because I got to pick my kids up. But so I'm going to do this on the fly, on the go. Mark in the Minivan, a driving edition. And we are talking Judas Priest, one of the greatest heavy metal bands of all time. One of the greatest bands of all time. I'll go out there and say it. One of the greatest bands of all time. They've given us so much great stuff through the years. And I love them. I've been seeing them in concert for years and years. And almost always see them when they come through town. Yeah, so thank God for Judas Priest. And Firepower was a really good listen. A really, really good listen. And I think as far as Judas Priest's recording history goes, I think it would be a good way to end that. The last album by Judas Priest, Firepower. I really think that would be a nice sign off. You know, it was a redemption after the Redeemer of Souls. It redeemed Judas Priest after their worst album in the history of the band, Redeemer of Souls, and ends things on a good note. You know, they Angel of Retribution was a really good record too when they first got back together. I think that's an excellent record. I'd put that and Firepower neck and neck, two great records. Nostradamus, some people, there's a few hardcore fans out there. I didn't really have the patience for it, because it does take a lot to dive into that album, but not bad. Redeemer of Souls didn't like it all. Firepower, very good. So just leave it at that, Judas Priest, really, because there's just, I feel like there's not a real need for another Priest album, especially considering the current state of the band with Glenn Tipton. Now, I mean, let's face it, sure, they're trying to make it like he would be involved in a new record, but I don't know. Maybe he would be. It's a little bit of a stretch for me to believe that, but you know, maybe that's the case, especially when we hear Richie Faulkner, a guy who I initially liked. I mean, I've interviewed him in person. He's been on the Talking Metal podcast, but I kind of feel I'm starting to get kind of sick of it, honestly, because I feel like he's like now the spokesman of the band, which is so freaking ridiculous. It's like I don't know how he's hijacked Judas Priest. It's like the Richie Faulkner experience now. It's like he's doing all the interviews, not all of them, but the majority of them. And it's like, really, dude? I mean, at first I really liked, he seemed to be this guy who was so respectful of the legacy. And now it's just, I'm so tired of Richie Faulkner says this about Priest and that about Priest. And Richie Faulkner says, I got a lot of ideas for the next album. Here's an idea, Richie Faulkner and Judas Priest, for the next album. I hope this is one of your many ideas, Richie. Bring fucking KK Downing back. I mean, KK is playing wonderfully and firing on all cylinders, and he is the DNA of Judas Priest. And I really believe that if there's going to be any additional recording by this band, it has to be with KK. I just don't get it. Why? Like, don't do it accepted. You know, you come back and they put out the one good record with Andy Sneap producing, and then it's another record and another record and another record, to which point everyone's so fucking bored that no one cares anymore. When you had that big splash with the first Andy Sneap produced record by Accept, just leave it at Firepower. It's a good way to close the history on the recording chapter of Judas Priest, and bring KK back if Judas Priest is going to do anything more, because a 50-year anniversary tour to not include KK who said he's available, at least, and I understand, sure, there's money to be talked about in contracts, but it doesn't even seem like it's gotten that far with KK. It seems like there's no interest. And that's really a shame for the fans because, yeah, okay, they can pull out some deep cuts for the next tour, play some songs they haven't played in years, but that's not going to do it. And let's face it, they've really, at least in my neck of the woods, in New Jersey, New York area, Priest has been struggling with attendance at their shows. It's not like Maiden where they're filling arenas. It's quite the opposite. It's I don't know. Sadly, I must say that the last couple Priest shows I've been to, not super well attended. Super great shows, for sure. But, man, you bring KK back, the excitement is back, and that's going to definitely help fill some seats and help this band close their time with us, which at 50 years in, I think it's time for any band to do that gracefully, and sure, do the final tour, or whatever you want to call it. I guess Judas Priest never did a quote-unquote final tour. They're one of the few that didn't do like 4 goodbye tours. I don't think they've done any, actually. But yeah, man, so I really hope that one of Richie's many ideas for the next Judas Priest album is that KK's coming back into the fold, because and I actually don't believe we need another Judas Priest record. Of course, if they do deliver one, I'll be happy to listen to it, and I hope, listen, if they do, I hope it's as good as Firepower, because Firepower was a great listen. There's no denying that. And it was a well-needed album after Redeemer of Souls, which would have been a terrible way to have, again, ended the recording chapter of Judas Priest. But that's that. I'm Mark in the Minivan. Support me on Patreon. And might go to Jersey City tonight and record an episode with the co-founder of Talking Metal, Johnny Astronomy. So we'll see how that goes. I'm definitely going to meet up with him. I don't know if we're going to record an episode yet, and I'm looking forward to it. And I thank you guys for all your support. Thanks for letting me drive and video at the same time. Thanks for all your support. These videos, some of them are getting like 3,000-4,000 views. I can't believe it, that you're listening to some bum drive around in a minivan. I'm humbled. Thank you.